Morning, friends. How are you today, this morning? Just give me a few minutes to sort out some things. Bring Olwa, you're welcome. You're welcome. I'm coming. Just give me a minute. So, good morning, everyone. Anastasia, morning. How are you? So you're welcome to this Saturday. I'm sorry for holding you. So how was your week? Interesting? All right. So thank you for coming. We are on this live broadcast trying to share some truths about how a single woman or man can overcome stigmatization. So last week we looked at righting the wrongs. That's the section, the subtitle we are doing, and I mean the title we are doing that we started recently. And last week we did righting the wrongs part 1, where we looked at church activities and seeing how they can hinder us. For example, in our prayers, the way we can fight God, asking for things we think are good for us, yet in God's mind they are actually far below what He has in mind for us. So we should stop fighting God. Then we looked at how we do our prayers and declarations. Many times we just do lip service, and then we don't allow the Word of God to work on us, to change our character, to act on our faith. So we saw how to correct that as well. We also looked at the way we are enticed sometimes to give in expectation to receive what we want from God. And we discovered that, you know what, God cannot be bribed. The sacrifice He desires most is our lives, giving our lives totally to Him and surrendering to His way and walking in His path, having a deep and intimate relationship with Him. Actually, that's the better sacrifice. And what other activities we did? We looked at church. We looked at not allowing church activities to steal our time and our our wider social life. And we saw that there is a need to walk in wisdom, to claim back our time and redeem our time, take control of our lives and achieve more and become, more productive. So those are the things we looked at last week. Oh, also we looked at the way we give testimonies. We leave out a lot of details that other people, the hearers, would benefit from. We should share in details, giving the principles we put in place so that other people will learn that, some of these testimonies don't just come by miracle. They come through principles. Yeah. So this week, interesting, we're looking at leadership. Righting the wrongs part 2. Single women restrictions in leadership. That is a big one. And I was just asking God to give me grace to know what to say. It's a wide topic, but I just hope that I will be able to say what God wants me to share with you. And please feel free to write your comments. Hello, Berua. You're welcome. Oh, you're so consistent, sis. Thank you. Emmanuel, you're welcome. Thank you. So today we are looking at the restriction of single women in leadership and how to correct that. I don't know whether some of you on the platform have experienced this, but I have in a certain church that, in fact, 2 churches that I used to attend, and I'll share my stories along the way. So, how can I start this? It's really unbelievable that in this day and age, 21st century, we still have some of these restrictions. Not all churches, some, and not all communities, but prevalently, especially in Africa, where single women are not allowed to go into certain ministerial posts or leadership posts just because, they are believed to be, they are not complete, something is missing. Whichever reasons they may quote, I'm still waiting for someone to really give me a valid reason why a single woman should not be allowed to be a leader. Okay, so let's go into this. We usually fall into a trap of, especially this comes into ministry. I'll come to leadership later, but let me start with ministry in churches. We fall into the trap of interpreting scriptures, using our prejudices, experiences, traditions and cultures, assumptions, and our ignorance. And we spread all this from the pulpit, and we end up stigmatizing people. We end up sending out a wrong signal, a wrong belief that marriage is a prerequisite for ministry, which is really, I believe, is wrong. And maybe I can, at this point, I should share my story. The point I'm bringing out that we should not, any single person, especially a lady, should not allow the singleness to be a defining factor in their lives. Yesterday we were listening to a great teaching by Dr. Sandra Dillinger about satanic attacks. And one of these attacks is through lies and deception. The lie that we don't know our value. We don't know our value, who we are. That's why we allow all these stereotypes to affect us and hinder us from becoming, spreading our wings and becoming the maximum that God intended us to become. So great. I shared it on my timeline. I advise, if you missed that teaching, please go down in my timeline and have go there and really listen. It will really boost your self-image. Okay. So let me share something about my life. Years back, the only way I used to know how to please God was to be very active in churches. Wherever I join a department. I'm active. Choir, prayer partners, prayer ministry, maybe youth, children. I'm all there. I knew that that's the only way to serve God, within the church. But through that process, of course, I noticed that there are some roles I wasn't allowed to take on, especially maybe teaching the congregation. I remember one time when I relocated in a new place, I joined a church. Of course, in that church, it was predominantly, white folks, and they advised us to give a testimony of how we came to the Lord. So when my turn came, I stood up, I prepared my PowerPoint, and shared how I came to know the Lord, and I shared my passion, and I was challenging people about purpose. So I didn't know that I was going into teaching, and because that's my gift. I mean, that when I give me the opportunity, that's where I go. I'm challenging people to look beyond just sitting in the pews. Some people were challenged and they were excited. But after the talking, I realized that I stepped on people's toes. Some people took me aside and told me, you know what, in this church, we don't allow women to teach to us. And, he went a bit far and all that. Yet other people came and said, thank you for encouraging us. Yes, you're sure you're right. We cannot live just for existing place, purposes. A mixture of reactions. So you guess what? I had to pack my bags and leave that environment. I cannot stand a place where you are limited, you are restricted, you don't share the same understanding. So I packed my load. So that's just to tell you that these things are just real, real. If you've never had that experience, thank God you've been in the right environment. Okay, so stay there. Okay, so let's go on. And so yeah, I'm just sharing that. So I saw that as being unfair, that people should be allowed to express themselves, express what God has deposited in them. And it's surprising that we as people usually attack the discrimination we find outside, especially outside church, in our workplaces, wherever, in politics, wherever. But we don't actually realize that there's some discrimination in the church, within the walls itself. We need to re-examine our lives, our churches, our congregations, our values, and the way we really handle stuff. So, yeah, so as I put down here now that in some churches, a single lady is never allowed to be given a role of leadership just because they are seen as not fit, incapacitated because of their status. And this is an error. So if you do not allow single people to be ministers or leaders, who else will be a better role model for the youth? Because they want to see someone who is in their situation. For example, if you have a lot of single people and there's no single leader, then they're only seeing married people. So you're sending out a wrong message that, leaders can only be married people. They need a role model who is like them, who's going through the same situations, but is standing and fulfilling purpose. Someone they can emulate. So we lack that gap. We have that gap in our churches that we need to fill. Single people, the youth all need role models. That's why it's very proper to allow single people to express themselves, to be in leadership roles, and to be the maximum that they were created to be. So okay, I put here that we are indirectly sending out a message that God only does not use single people, and that to be single is not biblical. Yet in the Bible we find a lot of great people, great men and women that God used who were actually single. So that's just trying to elaborate and correct that mindset. So since Jesus Christ's mission on earth, okay, we are under the dispensation of the Holy Spirit, who comes to live within us and thereby equipping us for service. Therefore, if God is not discriminating, who are we to do so? We're not higher than God. We're not better than God. Okay? And some people have limited the understanding of ministry to only be restricted to pulpit ministry, restricted to, the fivefold ministry. Actually, that's not really the truth. Okay? Ministry is also outside the church. Okay, so ministry, people who understand purpose, people who understand that they are God carriers, people who understand that they are in the image of God, they are made in the image and likeness of God. Actually, they see ministry as even their places of work, as a doctor, as a medical staff. You're healing people, bringing life and hope back to people. That is ministry. You're representing God in that sphere of influence. And if you're in politics, influencing that sphere, imposing godly principles and kingdom principles in that sphere, you are actually in ministry. All right. If you are into inventions and innovations just to try and make our world a better place, that is ministry. If you're doing post and live broadcasts, reaching out to people, influencing them to take a positive turnaround from helping them correct the wrongs, that is ministry. So we should not limit ourselves. Ministry is any service you're doing to represent God, to bring out the resources God has put in you, to make your environment a better place. Okay, so I'll quote two scriptures here. Galatians 3:28. There is neither Jew or Greek, nor Greek. There is neither slave nor free. There is neither male nor female. You are all one in Christ Jesus. So I don't see any mention here of demarcations of either married or single. We are all one in the Lord. That's how we should see ourselves. Acts 2:17-18 also says, Joel's prophecy, that in the last days God says, I'll pour out my spirit on all people. All. Your sons and daughters will prophesy. Your young men will see visions. Your old men will dream dreams. Even on my servants, both men and female, men and women, I'll pour out my spirit in those days, and they will prophesy. And this prophecy was fulfilled in Acts, when on the Pentecost, on the day of Pentecost, when the disciples are gathered together in one accord, and the Spirit of God came upon them. They were filled with, power, with, endowment to go out and spread the gospel. So in that room, there were many people. And guess what? There were single people as well. So I see sons and daughters, men and women, nothing about marital status in these scriptures. God uses anyone who is willing and obedient. So what makes people to believe that marriage is a prerequisite for ministry or leadership? So I didn't want to go into the theological arguments of what Paul said about women being submissive, being quiet. No, that will be wasting time. Let's stick to the truth. Okay. So I'm going to share how I developed myself to be a leader, and hoping that if I'm speaking to any lady out there, any single person out there who is still struggling in this area, maybe these steps, it's just summarized, but these steps will give you a push, will encourage you, inspire you to step into your position. Okay. So first of all, I realized that we were all born with the seed of leadership within us. Genesis 1:26-27 says that we are made in the image and likeness of God. God is a leader. No, you can't doubt that. So, a cat gives birth to a cat. A leader gives birth to a leader. So if my God is a leader, then I too am a leader. I have that seed of leadership within me. It just needs to be nurtured. Okay, we are all leaders. So, yeah. Then number 2, I understood that no one is born by chance on this earth. Every one of us is strategically put here to attain some results for God. So, and the only reason why we are still alive is because God is expecting us to do something, to achieve something for Him. Okay? That's the second understanding I got. Thirdly, I understood the simple definition of leadership. I don't have to be ordained. I already have the Spirit of God within me. I don't have to be a certain status. I don't have to. Leadership, the simple definition of leadership is influencing people. Influencing people to take a positive turn, to do the right thing. That's simply leadership. So if you meet a group of teenagers who are fighting on the streets, okay, you step in. You certainly manage to calm the situation down. You point to them the wrongs, how they should have handled the situation better. Actually, they both realize they are wrong. They apologize to each other, they make peace, and they go on their way. You have been a leader in that situation. You have influenced people to move from the negative to the positive. That's the leadership I'm talking about. Okay? So, another thing is that I looked at the things that gave me pain. Okay? One time I was in Uganda and I was lining up in a bank. And I noticed that it was a long queue and people were tired of waiting. And the official who was attending to us in the counter was busy on her phone talking, and we could hear the conversation. She was talking to her husband about food, the food she had left in the fridge and everything. We are in the queue. This is a bank. I noticed there's something wrong. People need to be taught customer service. Another thing, I was in another bank as well in Uganda, and I was opening up a new account in that branch. And then they told me to come back the following day. When I submitted my details, I came back. And then they made me wait. And then they told me I should come back the following day. I was so disappointed. because opening a bank, it takes minutes. A bank account takes minutes. Then I noticed a process in that bank. People would come to the officers after they have submitted their applications, and they would give a tip. Hey, hello, this is a small lunch for you. Oh, hey, this is something for you. Thank you for helping me with my application to make it come out quickly. This is something for you. I stormed out in anger. I said, you know what? I can't afford tips at this moment. These people are paid to do their job. So actually, they tossed me up and down until my time to return to the UK came, and I had to return without my bank being opened. So when I came here, I rang the management of that bank, and I complained. Okay, I complained, and I told them the reason why people they have to depend on tips and all that. I was bitter about it, so they understood my pains, and actually they opened up my account. So I realized the corruption. I realized the lack of character in our people. That's how I birthed the NGO called Character Aroma Project. Okay, please excuse me. Give me a minute, all right? Thank you. The weather is changing, so my nose is running a bit. Thank you. Thank you for your patience. So that's how I noticed the problem. And that's how the NGO that I led was birthed out of my pains. So what is your pain? What are you noticing about you, around you, in your community, in your nation, in the world that is giving you that pain? Yeah, are you a solution or part of the problem? So decide to become a solution. Okay. So that's how you start to discover your purpose and your role. And also find out what gives you joy. Usually the things that give you pain and joy, where they intersect, that is where your purpose is. Okay. So if your joy is in seeing children being fulfilled, happy, going to school, being provided for, and what gives you pain is seeing children on the streets, being neglected by parents, that joy and pain intersect around children. So your calling may be connected to children. So that's the easy way to see how to connect to your purpose. Okay, the fifth step that the sixth one I can share is that be clear of what you want to achieve in your lifetime. Be clear about it. So after finding your joy and pain, be clear about what you want to achieve in your lifetime. When you die, what legacy do you want to leave behind? That also enables you to put a plan in place. Okay, so then point 7, establish your own life governing values. Things that you will run by. That you said, you know what, this law will always hold where I'm concerned. Things could be determined to be committed to continuous personal development. I went for trainings. I went to Bible school, History Makers Bible School. I went to History Makers Training Cochrane. I went to the Institute of National Transformation to learn about leadership, executive leadership. So you are equipping yourself, because knowledge is power. You can't just wake up and say, oh, I want to be a leader. No, equip yourself so that when people challenge you, you have an answer. Knowledge equips us, knowledge empowers us. Knowledge helps us, improves us, So it's a very key component of development. Another life governing value can be integrity. In all my dealings, integrity will always stand. Hard work. I have to be diligent in whatever God has entrusted in my hand. Honesty, love for people. The reason why you're stepping out of yourself, you're not thinking about yourself, is because you're loving people. And that you're representing God. If you're really a carrier of God, then you have to love people because God is love. So having your priorities right, all these are life governing values that you can even put down and say, you know what, my life will always be governed by this. Okay. Then number 8, after finding where your joy and your pain intersect, then that can also determine the sphere of influence that you're called to influence for the kingdom. Is it business, social and family sphere, celebration, which includes drama, music, sports? Is it politics? Is it religion, education, or media? So your calling and purpose will always fall in any of those spheres. And then think about the people who you want to help, the people that you want to work with. Okay, develop a team. You cannot fulfill things on your own. You need help. you know. So identify people who you have the same values with, invite them, share your vision, you know, see whether those that buy into it, develop a team, and commit yourself to investing in your team and to motivate them and to develop them all the time. You know, teach them the things you've learned, sponsor them to trainings, and that's how you can develop people who will be loyal to you, people who will be loyal with the same, whose visions are also similar to yours. That's how you can build a team. Okay, and that is very important, developing a team. Actually, think about the people who can help you. That's number 9. Then 10 was committing to investing and motivating your team. Then 11, develop strategies of attaining your goals. Okay, short-term goals, medium-term goals, and long-term plans. Write those things down. You know, in this vision, you want to achieve this. Maybe you want to start with saving up some money for some projects. Then another short-term goal could be, okay, developing your team, bring them together. Medium term could be going for trainings and all that. Then long time, or setting up an NGO. So see how you are led, you know, from one step to another. It all takes a process. Okay, and then after that, you can, long term goal could be, you know, setting up an NGO as well. No, that could be a midterm goal, midterm plan. And then after that, start to publicize your work, your vision. Let people know what you're doing. That really helps, you know. The governments get to know what you're doing. People who like what you're doing start to connect with you. And that's how you build a network. Okay. And as you're doing that, as you're starting your projects, maybe always sit down with regularly sit down with your team, evaluate, and commit to continuous improvement. There are things, of course, you get wrong because you're learning, but we all learn through mistakes and we put things right. That's how we develop. So that's a simple way of starting to develop yourself into a leader. First of all, you're a leader on your own. You're a leader of your life. You make your own decisions. Then if you have a family, you're a leader in that family. Then when you start to step out in your purpose, then those are the steps you can take in. Okay? I hope they'll be helpful. So the next step we can look at righting the wrongs about restrictions. I'm not going off topic. Restrictions of single ladies in leadership. How can we correct this? So I want to speak to those people who are facing this kind of stigma. First of all, even the people who are, you know, believing in these things, we should be careful when we are interpreting scriptures and texts in the Bible. Okay, because if care is not taken, we could be carrying on a Jewish culture or an earthly culture and neglecting the kingdom culture. These are two different cultures. Okay, so let's look at the spirit of the Bible, not the letter. All right. And then secondly, you're not tied down to a particular church. You're not a slave. So have the boldness and the liberty to step out if you do not agree with some things in there. Okay, and all those people telling you that you cannot do some tasks just because you're married to status, you know what? They should come out for road. They should get out of your way. Just like I do, sometimes you just have to step out, all right, and go where, you know, you have that liberty, where you're free. And ministry and leadership doesn't have to be in church, as I've explained. Start your NGO, okay, and feel free, because that's the freedom God called us to. You're not called to be under bondage, okay. So do not allow your status to determine what you can or cannot do. Develop your intimate relationship with your Creator through regular personal retreats. Learn to be guided by Him and not to depend on pastor or other people. They're just human, and with all humans, we are full of all imperfections. Okay, so if we rely so much on what the pastor said, I can't go out because the pastor has not ordained me, I can't. Guess what? We are human. So you better connect with the perfect God and get the perfect will for your life, rather than depending on a human being. Okay, sorry about that. Then, number 4, establish boundaries in your life. Okay, know which are your no-go places, no-go people, no-go doctrines. My time is up. I'm winding up. Okay, this is because environment is a major factor for success in our lives. So make sure that your environment you're in is conducive to what you believe. So, and there must be more to life than what we are seeing around us. There is a problem that you are born to solve. One author called Publius Cyrus said, "No one knows what he can do till he tries." So you don't know your potential, your leadership potential, until you try out the steps. You will discover and even be amazed that actually you've been hiding all this potential within you. Okay, so go for it, my friend. Discover the garden, the sphere of influence that you're called to dress. You know, just like Adam was given a garden to look after, you too were given a garden. Okay, so is your garden now suffering just because you're single? Hey, you've got it wrong. You've got it wrong. Let us know their priority. Let us have our priorities right as you're turning and looking after your garden. Okay, that's how, as Adam was working. Okay, that's how Eve came about. So as you're turning your garden and you're busy working for God, that's how God will bless you with all the other things that you're looking for. Remember our major principle on this podcast: seek first the kingdom, and all these things shall be added to you. Okay, Genesis 1:28. Be fruitful and multiply. So through leadership, you have the ability to raise other leaders, mentor disciples. You are reproducing yourself through those people, through your influence of other people, and you're letting them think like you, to have the same values like you, to be knowledgeable like you. That's what multiplying and being fruitful is all about. So even through that, you're spreading the kingdom of God and the values of the kingdom through other spheres of influence. That is multiplication. Okay, so it's not about having children. Let us get the right understanding. Number 8, determined to leave a legacy for God. I've said this before. There are so many people who are married, had children, and yet the world does not know them. Why? Because they live for themselves. Okay, their spouses, their children, and not for purpose. Please do not add to this statistic. I beg you. Let us not add to this statistic. Let us pull it down and live for purpose. Okay? So, one day, Dr. Sandra Adelaja made a statement that people either exist, survive, or live. People either exist, survive, or live. Existing just like an animal, you are eating and sleeping and waiting for fate. That's a summary. Surviving is that, your job is your God. Hey, you're working for food, for bills. After one shift at night, you sleep for 2 hours, wake up, run for another shift. Come and see hustle here in UK. Anyway, let me not go there. Okay, what I'm trying to bring out that sometimes we live a lie, running after survival instead of living. We are supposed to be here to live, not to exist and survive, but to live. And we defined in an earlier broadcast the definition of life, because Jesus said, "I'm the way, the truth, and the life." So with this definition, to really live really means that you're expressing the life of God, the love of God, of Jesus, His will, His desires, okay, His principles, His life in the area and your community where you're living in. So this is real living, okay? So Jesus came to seek and save that which was lost. Is your sphere of influence suffering? Are you really seeking to find out and to save that which is part of your calling, the problem you're born to solve? That is a question. Okay, another question I want to leave us with is, if you knew you were going to die 1 year from today, what would you do differently? Hey, that's a tough question. It is a tough question. And the advantages of really sometimes taking time to think about death is that it actually makes you focus on the important things in life. And all these other distractions, they drop off. And guess what? Thinking and dreaming of marriage is another distraction, is another deception that the enemy attacks our minds with so that we can be distracted from the real purpose that we were created to pursue. So think about that. What would you do differently? Okay? So I encourage you to become the leader that God created you to be. So thank you, friends, for joining us. Mberu will say that determined to leave a legacy for God. That's deep. You're right. You're right, my sister. So thank you for taking time to be with me. And let me stop here because of my time. I wish you a blessed weekend. And God bless you. Bye.